All right, I am with Dan Weaver, and Dan, talk to us about what we're going to do with a drone today.
Right on. So we have it's actually a military grade thermal drone that we use for these herd analysis, doing herd counts. We can see exactly how many deer on the property, how many bucks, how many does. In fact, we can see if it's a button buck or a shed buck. We can see all that. We have it's a top of the state of the art thermal camera, and then we also have a 200x zoom camera that we can zoom in. We fly at around 400 feet, and we can zoom right in and see exactly
Wow,
what all's on the
200x is
property.
pretty. I mean, the
We
camera I'm filming with right now is 20, so that's for 200 is pretty impressive.
we rarely use over 80x. Even at
Yeah.
80x from 400 feet, you can see pretty much everything you're looking at.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you're doing herd analysis. Today we're at a friend of mine, his property, so we're going to take a look at some of that. And what is it you typically do? Do people contact you to have this done, or how does that work?
Yeah, so typically what people are trying to learn from this, and actually we see that a lot of people that are the most enthusiastic and already know the most about their property are actually the ones that are reaching out to us because they want that extra edge, right?
Right.
So a lot of people, especially if you're on your property quite a bit, you have an idea, especially of what bucks you have. But what's really hard is to know how many does you have, and that helps a lot with knowing how many doe you need to harvest to keep the herd and the buck doe ratio
Right.
in check.
And is there primary times of the year that you're running these surveys?
There is. So obviously the best time of the year, it's hard to do if it's full foliage. It's really difficult to identify what you're looking at. So typically from the end, you can do it anytime the leaves fall off, like from October to, this time of year, March,
Okay.
April. Generally, a lot of people like to wait until right after deer season,
Right.
January, February,
Okay.
and see exactly what's
Okay.
going on.
Do you have a website or anything?
I do.
Okay.
TitanDroneService.com.
All right, I'll provide that in the link below in the video so you can click on that if you want to get more information. But why don't we get to look at what you're looking at here on the drone?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So the drone's up in the air. Dan's flying it over the property, and I'm just gonna go right into the footage of him coming upon some deer. What that looks like, you'll see little dark specks is kind of what it appears in the screen in the footage, and then he can zoom in on that. Now the footage you're about to see actually is recorded by the remote that he was holding. You can see when the drone took off. So here's the footage.
Record this for now. Laying in there under the underbrush.
Did you say you saw more than one? Or?
Yeah, there's at least two and I think three. So there you can see there's one, there's two, and I think this one up here might be another one. It doesn't look like anything there. That looks like just a two though. Another stump. There's a couple of them right there.
It's on his feet, huh?
Mm-hmm. So right there, we're one on 160x. But a lot of times 80 is plenty. I think there was another one in there somewhere. I lost him.
There's one. Is that one right there? She's bedded down. Pretty neat. Yeah, that's at 400 feet. That's the nice thing about that zoom is you can stay up there and not disturb them while you're checking them out.
All right, so I'm working on editing this, and I just want to interject something here. I think he may talk about it later because I do a final interview with him, but it was a pretty warm day. We were there around, I think it was around 1 or 2 in the afternoon, the heat of the day, and there wasn't as much cloud cover as they were anticipating. That kind of throws off some of the thermal readings, and so it makes it a little bit more difficult to see the deer. So when you're having a thermal survey done, or even if you've hit a deer and you need something like this to help you recover it, which we'll talk about later too, it's best if you can do it in the cooler times of the day, probably, or cooler times of the year, or where you have cloud cover so the sun isn't heating up the surface as much. What I want to do now though is he's going to show us a way that they can program the drone to get real high quality images of a particular area of a property. So let's take a look at that, and then I also have some footage from another survey they did at a different property. Since the conditions weren't spectacular the day we ran this, I will say though, I was very impressed with how well you could see the deer. Once you identified a deer and zoomed in on it, it's amazing how well you could see the deer. You could see them laying in their bed, chewing their cud. You could see them moving their ears or standing up. So pretty interesting stuff. Let's get back over to the footage though and continue the video. Oh, and I will mention, I just got contacted by a company like 2 days ago asking me if I wanted to do a review on a consumer grade drone. This is what we're doing here. This is like a military grade drone. This is high tech stuff. But those consumer grade like $300-400 ones, they asked me if I would do a review. So I was like, yeah, send it over. I mean, these drone things are all new to me. I'll check it out. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to do a little review here in the next week or so on a consumer grade, just your standard little 4K video type of drone. So let's get back over to the footage here though and check this out some more.
All right, so another thing we do with these drones is we can map out a section and get basically a high definition aerial image. So what we're going to do here is we're going to select within this grid, and we'll select a camera. We select the Matrice wide, and then we set our flight route altitude. We're going to fly at about 330 feet. Flight speed around 20 miles per hour is pretty good. And then we have a whole host of other settings that we can adjust. And we'll just adjust the parameters of whatever area we want to cover. And then if you can see there, it'll actually position the grid lines based on how high you're flying and what the overlaps and stuff that you set. And then we'll actually make it a little smaller for demonstrative purposes. So right there we're doing about 8 acres. We'll save that grid, and then we upload the mission to the controller, and we hit start.
Moving to start point.
And then the drone will actually move autonomously to the start point, and it'll fly the route, and it'll be taking pictures, and we'll show that once the drone gets there, how that all looks. So up here we can see how many photos we're taking. This one here is about 8 acres. We're taking about 44 photos, and estimated time left is about 2 minutes of flight time.
Arrived at start point. Starting task.
You can see his shooting house or whatever out there.
And essentially what this does is it allows you to get an updated high definition map that when you zoom in on you can see the very fine detail, whereas with the standard satellite map it gets extremely blurry in a hurry when you start zooming in closely. So with that being said, also a lot of times your satellite maps are several years old, so if you did some clearing or changed the habitat, it's not reflected in the satellite map, and so this gives you an up-to-date map, high definition map.
So will they come as individual images, or does it get stitched together?
It'll get stitched together. So what we do is we take this imagery back to the office, and we'll plug it into a software that'll actually stitch them all together. And then when you we'll send you a link, and it's a live link, so you can log in anytime and zoom in on whatever area you're looking to get a closer look at. The definition is high enough where we've literally seen deer in the imagery after we processed it.
Return to home. Flight mission complete.
And once the mission's complete, the drone will fly itself back to the start point, back to home point, and we'll upload that data into the computer and process it.
Gimbal down. Landing.
Will this have audio in it? Like
It will.
Her talking?
It'll have the audio of us talking as well.
Oh, have us too? Good.
Yeah.
All right, so this footage here is from a different property. I was not present when they recorded this, but we're going to get to see, how they do a population count, and they even identify buck versus doe with the markers that they put down and things like that. And then they'll actually give you a report that involves, like a map graph like this of the property once they've done the full survey.
So another thing we do while we're doing these surveys is we'll actually mark every deer that we see for a couple reasons. One is so we're not double counting and we know we've counted them already. And number two is we actually mark them with different color markers. So we'll have, say, blue for does, we'll have red for bucks, violet for shed bucks. And at the end of the survey, we can go back on our map and we can see exactly where every deer was bedded. Ideally, we do these surveys during the day while the deer are bedded so they're not moving around as much. It makes it a lot easier to count and not double count and all that good stuff. But then we'll be able to go back and see exactly where the bucks were bedding, where the does were bedding, and also use that information to improve habitats, create more areas for deer to bed, to spread them out across your property. So those are just a couple things that we do with the technology.
Have you been thinking about doing any deer recovery type work with this?
We actually are. So that's actually where this really shines. Is I tell everybody that when you take our phone number, take my business card or whatever, it's not for you, it's for your buddies, right? They're the ones that are going to need it. But unfortunately, it's a fact of life. If you've hunted long enough, you've had a deer that you shot, you weren't sure of where you hit it, or you thought you knew where you hit it, but blood trail goes 150 yards and goes to nothing. And at that point, you can do several things. You can start grid searching, which unfortunately kind of ruins that area for the next couple weeks as far as big bucks go. Or you can bring a dog in, and dogs are great, but the downside of that too is a lot of times you're going through there, and especially if the deer's not dead and you bump him, a lot of times they'll go for a long ways, and your chances of finding him at that point is greatly diminished. So with the drone, we can come in, we can locate the deer, and hopefully he's dead, obviously, and you can go in and recover him. If he's not dead, obviously we can back out without bumping him and, get an idea of what shape he's in. If he's almost dead, give him another 12 hours or whatever.
Is there, are you aware of some states probably don't allow it, some do? Do you guys have a list of that on your
Correct.
website?
So there's one thing I'll tell you is, so we're in contact with several attorneys about that very thing. DNR, unfortunately, a lot of them are going to just say that you can't use a drone for hunting. And so there is a bit of a gray area, but attorneys that we've spoken to say that if we're using it to recover a deer and not aiding in the hunt, then it's good to go. So there's a lot of states that are having to having to deal with it as far as making new laws to accommodate the new technology, and so I look for some changes in that. But yeah, as of now, it's we're good to go. And pretty much most states, Missouri is one that's still pretty tight about it. Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, we're in good shape.
Well, Dan, that's pretty neat stuff. Do you have any final things you want to share with us before we conclude for today?
Well, hey, all I say is if you have a deer you can't find, or if you're curious to know what's going on your property, give us a shot. We do have some footage on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, Titan Drone Service. You can find us, and it'll show you just exactly what all we can see with the technology.
Okay. Make sure you check the link for their website in the description section, and who knows, you just might be calling Dan for something, whether it's a deer recovery or a deer survey. But I want to thank you for tuning in. Until next time, take care and God bless.